doctor to Bodhni Training Center and Keshav Shrishti Old Age Home. He is known for his social activities. He has been the ex-president of the Lions Club, the ex-district chairman for the Lions Club region almost 19 times. He has been the ex-president of the Agarwal Seva Samiti and the president for the Bhayandar Medical Association. He is currently the trustee and zonal director of the AMC and the president-elect and fellow of the Society of Mumbai. He has received multiple awards right from the Zilla Parishad for the highest tubectomy operations in 1985 and several awards from the Bhayandar Medical Association, from the Association of Medical Consultants Mumbai, an appreciation award from SL World, Bhayandar Municipality and from the Bhayandar Medical Association. He has rendered valuable services in the Latur earthquake and Gujarat earthquake, and he is also the advisor for Our Lady of Nazareth School, the Holy Cross High School, the St. Xavier's High School, Poddar High School, and Ram Ratna Vidya Mandir. He is also the founder member of the Lions Club of Bhayandar, the Bhayandar Medical Association, and the Agarwal Seva Samiti. Thank you very much, Dr. Shiv Bhagwan Agarwal, for sparing your valuable time on this Sunday morning to be the chairman of this 6th Sanjeevani program. Thank you very much. I would request Dr. Nikita Verma, our radiologist, to please offer a garland, a flower bouquet to our chairman. Graduated in Logistics Administration in the year 1990 and worked in the Indian Air Force for 7 years as a logistics administrator, and it was during this time that he came in contact with ISKCON. He was also a renowned lawn tennis player, and he has represented the IAF for the national championship. He finally decided to dedicate his life to preach the message of the Bhagavad Gita all over India and presently all over the world. He is known for his college preaching programs, inspiring the youth not only in Mumbai and India but also abroad. He's been carrying out college preaching programs in UDCT and VJTI. These are prestigious engineering institutes. And he is also known for conducting various seminars on stress management and personality development. He's also visited universities abroad like the New York University, Columbia University, and the Penn State University in the US. I would now request His Grace Shiksastakam Prabhu to please take over the program. The program for the lecture for today is on desire management. And desire management, as we all in the medical profession know, could be quite a difficult thing for all of us. So we welcome His Grace Shiksastakam Prabhu to our 6th Sanjeevani program. Thank you very much.
चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतः पदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitamsya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhur Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna I feel very privileged and honored to be with all of you today, and over here I guess this is for the first time or second time I'm here, but it was not named Sanjeevani then when I had come. So we have a very interesting topic, seminar on, come to the first one, desire management, in which we shall be discussing various subjects which pertain to our desires. Now, many times this question somebody might have, that what we have to do to manage our desires. We just enjoy them, we just cherish them. Why we have to manage them? Now, according to the reports of WHO, they say that the 21st century main disease is because of uncontrolled desires, stress which is born. Now, when we are speaking of managing our desires, we'll be understanding today from also the scriptural point of view what these desires they comprise of, and what is the effect of these desires, and of course what the scriptures are telling us how to manage them in order to have a healthy human form of life. So we shall be discussing four things. Firstly, we'll be understanding what is a desire. Secondly, how is it born? And thirdly, what is the effect? And of course, how to manage. Now, desire is something which we see the whole creation is a result of, in which we are living. Now, in some of the philosophies, it's also clearly said, God desired and then there was a creation. And of course, our Vedic scriptures also speak of that. And we see that this entire creation in which we are living, which is nothing but Lord's desire, within this creation, we have created so many things. Just like, take this room, so many things within this room. We have this microphone, these chairs, the AC, the projector, the laptop, and all these things. Somebody desired to have it. And then there was the manifestation of it. So before anything gets manifested, you have a desire first for its manifestation. So there is a desire, then there is design, then some raw materials are put together, it's a blueprint is created, and then you have some labor, And then of course, you have to understand the purpose why anything has been created. Now, Srimad Bhagavatam explains that within this human form of life, one thing which makes us different from the animals is we have all these desires, which of course many times doesn't get fulfilled. But we can understand about these desires, we can exercise these desires, which of course the animals, they don't have any clue of what to do about that. So Srimad Bhagavatam explains that just like if you stand shore of an ocean, so you may see from a distance the huge body of water, and you may not understand how many living creatures are there living within. But when you go a little deeper, you go deep inside the water, then you see there are so many fishes and living creatures within the water. So similarly, just looking at a person from distance, you may not understand how many desires the person might have within. Just like an ocean, we may not in any way try to fathom how many living creatures are there inside. So in that sense, it is explained that if we try to jot down how many desires do we have within our mind, and one philosopher has given a very interesting example. So if we want to jot down how many desires we have within, we take a piece of paper which is as big as the sky and a pen which can contain as much ink as sea contains water in it. So imagine a huge piece of paper that big and a pen having that much ink in it, and we try to jot down how many desires we have. It is said that the page will be finished, the ink will be exhausted, maybe the nib of that pen will be broken, but we may still have our desires left out to jot down. And the same example of the fishes again. Only some of the fishes you may see just surfacing out. But how many aquatics are there within the ocean? That is the example given, how many desires we have within us. So beginning with our first question, what is a desire? Now, I would like to ask some of you, what would be your simple or whatever medical explanation of what a desire would be? Anyone would like to say? What according to you a desire would be? Definition. No one? Yes. No, I didn't get you. I didn't hear. To obtain a particular thing which we may need or which we may want.
Which we need or others which we want.
Okay, okay. Yeah. Anyone else? Yes.
Our aspirations for things which we don't have.
The aspirations for things which we do not have. Anyone else? Yes. Good definitions. Desire is a symptom of the mind. Yes. So this is a medical language. The symptoms are given. Yes. You can go. We can see the definition over here. This is the dictionary definition. An unsatisfied longing and craving. Why over here it is termed as unsatisfied? It's a kind of a longing, and it always craves for something more. Because it's something very subtle, no matter how much you give to this body on a gross platform, the desire is such that it never gets satisfied on the material platform. And therefore, it always remains a kind of a craving. It always remains unsatisfied. Like you may eat a full belly meal, and then still the desire might have, after eating a full belly meal, then something sweet, then some digestives, then some pan, so many things, it just goes on. And like that, there are so many different situations, different objects, different people whom we desire, and we see that on a material platform, it always remains some sort of a craving that yes, I could have had more of this, I could have had, something else other than this. Now, the Niti Shastra explains very wonderfully the definition of how a person who is full of these kind of desires, what is the predicament that person is in. So it's a kind of a puzzle, and let us see how we can solve this puzzle understanding this verse from the Niti Shastra. It is explained, Ashanam Manushyanam Kachid Ascharya Shrinkhala Yaya Baddha Pradhavanti Mukta Tishthanti Panguvat. In this verse it is explained, a kind of a puzzle is given that you have a person who is baddha, who is bound, shackled. Say someone is bound to this chair tightly. But then it is said, Yaya Baddha Pradhavanti. This person who is bound is seen running. And then Mukta Tishthanti Panguvat. And a person who is Mukta, a person who is free, is seen just sitting. Panguvat means a lame man. A person who is just like a lame man, he can't move, just sitting at one place. So this is a puzzle which this verse is putting forth in front of us. A bound person is seen running around, not just Havanti, but Pradhavanti. Means very fast he is running. On the other hand, a person who is Mukta is seen sitting at one place. So how do you resolve this puzzle? Can you guess what this puzzle is trying to indicate to us? Yeah. Yeah. Over here it is said that a person who is not troubled by these material desires, that person doesn't need to run around to satisfy on a physical level. But on the other hand, when you see a person who is full of these kind of material desires, then although that person is bound, he's shackled by those desires, but because of those shackles, he's running around trying to fulfill them. So therefore, desire, it is explained, go ahead, that they are like shackles. They bound us, but then we have to run around practically through all of these 84 lakh species, all over this material creation, just to get some satisfaction. And then of course, in the Niti Shastra, it's also explained that this material desires within us is compared to a chaste wife. It's a very interesting verse again. This says, Kshut Trit Asha Kutumbinam. Kutumba, you all know, family. So a person, he is having three wives, Kshut, Trit and Asha. These are the three wives of this man. But Tasam Asha Mahasadhvi. It is said that amongst these three wives, two of these wives, they sometimes leave the husband. But one wife amongst these three is a Mahasadhvi, is a chaste which never leaves this husband. So who are these three wives? Hunger, thirst and desire. So amongst these three, sometimes hunger and thirst, get satisfied and they leave the husband, all of us. But then as far as this desire, this asha is concerned, this asha never leaves, it is Mahasadhvi. And therefore, or this desire or this asha is compared to a chaste wife which never leaves, even up till the point of death, not to speak of that, after that also. So there is a nice saying over here. We have George Bernard Shaw saying, there are two tragedies in life. One is not to get your heart's desire, and the other is to get it. So in either ways, on the material platform, it's a tragedy. Whether you get your heart's desire fulfilled or whether you don't get it. Because the nature of desire is, in spite of getting it on a physical level, the desire is always going to remain in that state of unsatisfaction or dissatisfaction or longing or craving. Go ahead. Now, we have to understand that how this particular thing is born within us. Again, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains very scientifically and very systematically that how this desire is born. Krishna explains, it first begins with contemplation. Contemplation of the objects which this human body wants to get some satisfaction through. Dhyayato vishayan pumsam sangasteshu upajayate sangat sanjayate kama kama krodhot bhijayate. So it begins with contemplation, dhyayato, and that contemplation further leads to attachment, that is asakti, and that attachment then leads to a desire which is then formulated within the mind. So initially it might not be so dangerous as long as it's just an innocent thought. But when that thought turns into contemplation, any object or any situation, when the thought starts contemplating on it, then that contemplation, it develops into attachment. And then the desire is born, which becomes so permanently impressed kind of in the mind, then that thing of craving, longing begins, and a person then wants to get satisfaction, then goes into the physical activity of getting that particular desire fulfilled. Yeah. And once that thing is established, yes, then it starts looking for a sense object. That particular desire, because you see our body, it's not just a lump of flesh. Yes, of course you find flesh everywhere, but this body has been designed in such a way that we have these senses within our body. The eyes, the nose, the tongue, the skin. So all these senses are there, and these senses, they have their respective sense objects. So a person, whenever he's desiring on a material platform, it always in relationship with these senses and the sense objects. So you have a sense object, say for example, something very beautiful to look at. So that's for the eyes, something very beautiful to look at. Something very tasty to eat, that's for the tongue. Something very nice to smell, that's for the nose. Something very nice to hear, something melodious, that's for the ears. Something very soft to touch at, that's for the skin. So all these sense objects are there within this material world. And then we have our senses. Now, again, when we see that sense gratification has been defined as a combination of the senses with the sense objects. Now, every species, they have a particular sense object for each of their senses, depending on which sense is prominent. Now for some of the species, they might not have all of their senses prominent. Like say these birds, bats. Now they can't see, but their hearing sense is so powerful that there is something called echolocation, by which they can find a prey, or they can find their way wherever they want to go. They can't see, but they emit such high-pitched sounds which rebounds back, and they can listen. Their ears are so powerful that they tried out in a big room like this, which was crisscross wired, and hundreds of these bats were put in this room. But none of these bats, they crashed into each other. No accident, no headlong collision, and none of these bats, they got entangled in those wires, and they can't see properly. In fact, they can't even see, but because they emit the sound and their ears are so powerful that the rebounded sound, they come to know that there is some object coming in between. So we see some of the species, their senses, some of the senses are so powerful, and for them that particular object for enjoyment, for that particular sense, is the desire within them. Now as far as we human beings are concerned, again there is a very beautiful verse which explains that we human beings who have all the five senses develop like anything. We can enjoy the objects of these five senses which we just spoke of in such variegated matters. We can enjoy our eyes in so many different ways, just like in computer, initially the number of colors, when computer was designed, the number of colors were like numbered some 50 to 60. And now the same computer, the colors are in millions, the different combinations of that. Just look at the television. You have so many channels. What is it? Just for the pleasure, feasting for the eyes, beautiful forms, images, colors, and all these things. So this verse, again from one of our Vedic scriptures, explains this is a comparison between some animals and how just one of their senses is prominent to enjoy a particular sense object, as against we human beings. So this verse says, Patang matanga kuranga bhringa minaha hata pancha bhireva pancha ekam pramathi sakatham nahanyate yahasevate pancha bhireva pancha. It is explained, Patanga is a moth. Now a moth is very much attracted to the sense of sight, to the dancing flames of fire. A moth is very much attracted, and you must have seen, especially in rainy season, these moths, they don't get any fire to associate with. They just circumambulate some light bulb, something like that. Now this moth, it is said, it is so much infatuated by that fire that at one point of time it enters into that fire and kills itself. So this moth gets killed when it gets infatuated by the sense of sight, its eyes. Then another animal mentioned, Matanga, an elephant, who is very much attracted to the sense of touch. It's a huge animal, and sometimes we see a 5-foot mahout sitting on this huge animal and directing. Sometimes in a circus, the dictations of the ringmaster, the elephant moves, this huge elephant. Just one blow, it can kill and pulverize that human being. So how this huge elephant is captured? Because it is very much attracted to the sense of touch. So this mahout, what it does, digs a pit and covers it with some dry grass, and just as a effigy of another he elephant or she elephant, depending on which it's catching, and just puts it in front of the pit, and this elephant starts running to touch the beloved, the opposite sex, and falls in that pit. So this huge animal, this elephant, is caught when it just goes to enjoy the sense of touch. And the third animal is kuranga, a deer, very much attracted to the sense of hearing. So this deer is such a swift animal. Even the hunter who wants to shoot down a deer in a forest, very difficult to shoot down, so swift, runs so fast. But one weakness in this deer is that it loves nice music. So the hunter plays some nice flute before shooting the arrow, and the deer just stands still at one place, listening to the nice music. And that is the time when the hunter shoots this deer. So deer gets killed when it goes to enjoy the sense of hearing. Then meena is fish. Fish is very much attracted to eating nice palatable foodstuffs. So in a body of water, the fish might be getting everything for its survival, but when the fisherman throws the bait and something attached to the hook, so this fish looks at that particular new thing which has come now. So goes to eat that and gets hooked up, gets caught. So this fish gets killed when it goes to enjoy the sense of taste. And bhringa is this fifth animal. Bhringa is that big huge bumblebee. So this bumblebee, it has such power that it can penetrate, drill a hole through a tree trunk. But this bhringa, when it goes to enjoy a nice lotus flower, its smell, then the lotus flower at night closes. All the petals close of the lotus flower. Now this bhringa, who has all the power to penetrate through a tree trunk, can't it not penetrate through a soft petal of a lotus flower? But it doesn't, because then it will lose all the enjoyment of smelling the nice lotus flower. So this bhringa is so much attracted to this particular enjoyment of smelling a lotus flower that in the morning when the lotus flower opens, this bhringa is found dead. So this animal gets killed when it goes to enjoy the sense of smell. So this verse explains patanga, matanga, kuranga, bhringa, meena, hata. These five animals, they get killed. But it said ekam pramati. They were attracted only to one of their senses and one of the sense object respective to that particular sense. But the conclusion of this verse is sakatham na hanyate yahasevate pancha bhireva pancha. Why that species will not get destroyed who goes to enjoy all the five senses simultaneously. And which is that species? We human beings. If these animals, the moth got destroyed only because of the eyes, not because of the tongue. The elephant got destroyed only because of the sense of touch, not because of the sense of hearing or any other sense. But as far as we human beings, we want to enjoy all the five senses simultaneously, not just one at a time, but sometimes simultaneously. Like someone going in a movie theater, and over there the sense of sight is getting gratified because beautiful people and beautiful scenery and all these things come on the screen. And alongside there is some nice special effects music going on for the ears. So simultaneously eyes and the ears are getting gratified. And then there is a nice cushioned seat, you can recline back. That's for the skin, the sense of touch. And they keep spraying these room fresheners, because so many people packed up in a movie theater. So, the sense of smell should also be gratified because, this body doesn't smell so good if it's not taken care properly. So these movie theaters, they keep spraying room fresheners for the gratification of the nose. And while all this is going on, the guy is munching on something. That's for the tongue. So here in this example you see all the five senses simultaneously person is trying to gratify. So this verse explains that sense gratification on this material platform, simply the contact of the senses with the sense object, this leads to actually death. Now, therefore, when we have the sense object and then there is the senses, then again Krishna explains that the desire is born. Now, we may have the senses, but if the sense object is not there, then we may not get that desire. Just like, say, 20 years ago, we may not be having a desire of having a cell phone because this object was not there. Phone was there, but not the cell phone. So we didn't have that desire to have a cell phone. But now because the object is there, and we have our senses who can use and enjoy that particular object, then the desire was born. And like that, it's not just the previous dormant desires which keep surfacing out like the fishes in the ocean, but now we see because of the technology, newer and newer desires are also born, keep adding as we are progressing in this age of Kali Yuga. So this is how Krishna is explaining in the Bhagavad Gita, a desire is born. Go ahead. Now, what is the effect? Of course, we all are experiencing the effects of so many desires within us, but let us try to pinpoint what is the effect of these desires in essence within us, which are so prominent and powerful. Go ahead. So you see, desire either will be satisfied or else will be dissatisfied. Either of these cases. Now let us take, if whatever desires one may have, if those desires are satisfied, then that leads to greed. Because the nature of desire is that it always wants something more. And therefore, the two-line story of everyone within this material world is, I get what I do not want and I do not get what I really want. So, how many times we are put in the predicament that I'm always working hard, desiring to have something because I don't have right now. And then some of the things I'm desiring I shouldn't have, but then they are forced upon me. I don't want diseases. Of course, the patients don't want diseases. Sometimes doctors want in someone else. If you ask a doctor, how is your practice going on? The doctor says, very nice. What does that mean? Which means the patients are becoming more and more sick. That's how the practice is going on nicely. So we don't want certain things. We don't want old age. We don't want death. But still these things are forced upon us. So desire is something which always keeps us on the move. Now, there is a nice story in this regard. One time a king was approached by a sage. This king was very ambitious. He was very successful, youthful, having a nice family also. So this sage approached him, and this king asked this sage,
that you tell me, what is the definition of happiness?
in just one word. And the sage thought for a while and said, happiness means it's like a butterfly. Because he had asked, just explain in one word. So he just said, happiness is like butterfly. And the sage left without giving any further explanation. Now the king was a little confused, trying to figure out what happiness has to do with butterfly, what butterfly has to do with happiness. Many months passed. Now this king was sitting in his royal gardens, and he happened to see a butterfly. And then he thought that sage some months ago had told me happiness is like a butterfly. So let me try to look into a butterfly, if I can figure out what he meant then. So he came closer to that butterfly, and as the nature of the butterfly, it flew from that particular place. So this king started chasing after this butterfly. The butterfly kept flying from one flower to another flower, from one leaf to another leaf. And now the king, many hours passed by, the king was running around that whole garden trying to catch that butterfly. And at one point of time, the king was so exasperated, so exhausted, that he just sat down, sweating. And that particular moment, the butterfly just flew and alighted on the shoulder of this king. And then the king understood what exactly that sage meant. That happiness or this desire to enjoy this world is like that. That we run after it and it's just like butterfly. It's just so close that we can just grab it. But then at times when we are not running after that butterfly, sometimes that happiness or that butterfly alights on us. So that is how, even if this desire gets satisfied, it turns into kind of greed. And then what to speak of when it is dissatisfied? Krishna explains what happens. Firstly, when desire is not satisfied, it turns into krodha, it turns into anger. And it's very well said that anger is just one letter short of danger. You just remove the D and that turns into anger. Just add that D to that anger, or in fact it's already in itself dangerous. Then that leads to delusion. That delusion then leads to memory loss. Now this is something very significant. It is, now you see, we are able to discriminate between what we want in our life, what is good, what is bad, because we have this memory within us. Imagine if this particular hard disk crashes, the memory crashes, and you are not able to discriminate whether fire burns you or not. Now we have all experienced that fire is something which burns. So either we have heard from someone or maybe some practical experience of that, because of which it's registered that anything like that which is looking like fire or fire itself, we stay away because the memory tells us that it will burn you. Now therefore, because of the memory, we use our intelligence to discriminate, okay, this thing I should accept in my life, this thing I shouldn't. But if when the memory is lost, then it's very dangerous because you lose the discrimination power. You don't know what you are saying, you don't know what you are doing, you don't know where you are, you don't know who you are. Now anger, when person becomes angry because of dissatisfaction of the desire, then you see an angry person, he doesn't know what he is speaking. He doesn't know what he is doing, he's not in himself. So it's a kind of a memory loss, a temporary memory loss for that person. And like that, if a person is leading a life full of dissatisfaction, then there is this anger which is just bottling up inside. And what is happening is that a person is slowly, gradually, because of that dissatisfaction of that desire, is losing its capacity to discriminate between what is good and what is bad, what is right, what is wrong. And therefore Krishna is explaining that memory loss leads to the discrimination power is also lost, intelligence is lost. And then of course the material bondage is continued because of that. Krodot bhavati sammohat smriti vibhrama smriti bhramsat buddhi nasho buddhi nashat pranashyati. This is the sequence in which Krishna is explaining that dissatisfaction leads to anger, anger leads to delusion, memory loss, intelligence loss, and the material bondage. Now at this point of time, on greed, would like to show you a small animation which explains that what a particular emotion within us. Now yes, this might appear to be a little funny. A 3D cartoon animation might appear to be funny, but before we begin this, I would like to tell you that the point which we discussed right now is how the desire, even if finds some kind of satisfaction, it leads into greed, which always wants something more always. So in this, you will see how the character in this particular animation is exhibiting that particular greed, that emotion. Yeah. We can switch off these lights. Yeah. So over here we saw that this particular squirrel, who was so attached to these nuts, really he went nuts trying to just keep them together. This is how a mind which thinks that I have all my desires now with me and I am getting the satisfaction of all these desires, but always the nature of this material world is that it's like that butterfly which just shows us that yes, here is the satisfaction and you are just few inches away from that satisfaction. As we saw this animal who had so many hopes till the last point of his, particular project of having all those nuts put together. So now we'll see that these desires within us, how the present day, the scenario, how it's getting manifested. Go ahead. Yeah. So herein, I just recently got this particular statistics, just last week, some startling statistics on consumerism in India, and herein we can see how much Indians are buying every day. And what we are going to see is nothing but the manifestation of the desires within us, which leads to this consumerism in which we are all living. Go ahead. No, just go one by one. Yeah. So herein you see, begins with packaged water. Every day, this is the statistics of every day, 57.6 lakh bottles are bought every day. Now over here you see the kind of lifestyle we are living in which there was a point of time when there were certain things which we considered as luxury. Like I remember telephone, the first time, in our house, the landline, so many years ago, the landline first time came, we were giving our numbers to everyone. This is, phone is in my house. So this is number, and it was a kind of a luxury. Oh, you have a phone in your house? You are a well-off person. And the first time when it rang, practically everyone in the family ran to pick it up. Somebody knows now our number and is ringing us. Now, that luxury which was at one point of time considered a luxury has been termed as a necessity now. If you don't have a phone, if you don't have a computer, if you don't have a TV, if you don't have an email ID, you don't have any identity. Well, I may be standing in front of you, but who are you? I need your ID, email ID. I can't interact with you, but I can interact through some machine, through some, keys. So how you see this has been changed from something which was luxury considered has become a necessity now, and vice versa also. Necessity has become luxury. I remember this packaged water I saw over here. Now drinking pure water is a necessity, but this has become a luxury. If you are traveling by train, and if you have always bottled water you are drinking when others are going out and filling up the platforms, then you are considered to be a person who is affording this luxury, which is a necessity. To drink clean water has become a luxury now. To breathe clean air is a necessity. But in some countries you have to pay. I heard in Bombay also there is this fresh outlets, oxygen. You have to pay for it, and you can breathe some clean air. To breathe clean air has become a luxury. Fresh fruits. Now fruits is something which nature gives us for free, but we make it so expensive. If you really want to go on a fruit diet, it's more expensive than any other junk food if you want to eat. So something which is very much required for our survival, sustenance, clean water, clean air, fresh fruits, they have been made prohibitively expensive, and it's become a luxury. If these celebrities, if you read what all they do, what is their diet, fruit diet, some raw diet, and animals they do it very freely. You may have animals eating raw diet and getting out all free, but big celebrities, that is their diet. Of course, again, it boils down to because they want to maintain their body for the senses and the sense object again. So this is what begins with something which is our necessity has become a luxury over here. Gold every day is 1918 kg. Go ahead. Pair of jeans. Every day these many pairs of these trousers are. So they are residing in India, but the whole goal and focus is to somehow leave this country, and even though this Mera Bharat must be Mahan, but still, when I really want to 1 into 45 do that, then I have to go over there. So this is the number of people going abroad. Every day these many TV sets are bought, 22,740, and now there is some other version in this. It's called flat screen, 9,873. Go ahead. Refrigerators, 9,589. Beer bottles, 86 lakh. That's every day. Yeah. Soaps, 151 lakh bars. Now, I was just talking to one student where I go for this preaching program, this chemical engineering college, and the student was telling me something very interesting, that he has been doing PhD for 8 years now. And do you want to know what field he is doing his PhD in? To increase the longevity of a water bubble. He is doing his PhD for 8 years now to increase the longevity of a water bubble. And he has been sponsored by a luxury soap company, like I just remember, it's soap over here I saw. And they have sponsored him with all the money to do the PhD on that. And why you want increase the longevity of a water bubble? Why somebody would want that? And he said that there are these big celebrities, elite people, who use certain soaps, and when they take bath and the foam and the bubbles which are formed through that soap, when it goes trickling down their body, it gives them a nice soothing sensation. So they want that the soap which they will use should have that kind of formation of bubbles which stays for long. So that when that bubble goes trickling down their body, they get such tickling sensation that it's like Brahmananda, something like that. So this person is doing his PhD since 8 years, trying to increase the longevity of a water bubble. Now, this human form of life has been designed to understand the supreme absolute truth and to get out of this material world, and we are simply absorbing our brains in trying to increase the longevity of a water bubble. No species also like that in the 84 lakh species, a water bubble which we may become. So maybe something in relation to that, we may get a body like that if somebody is into that. Movie tickets, 1.04 crores every day. Go ahead. Cars, 2,416, that's every day on the roads coming in. And this is, I guess, the greatest of the number. Cigarettes, 26.02 crore sticks. And mind, this is all with the statutory warning. None of the cigarettes, they can't sell those cigarettes without the statutory warning. In fact, in some of the countries, they decided that, they found first that people who are smoking, because the statutory warning is on the pack, so they would take out the stick and the pack would go in the pocket. So, and nobody would pay attention to the statutory warning. So they decided that every cigarette stick should have the warning on it. So as the smoker is smoking, he'll be, looking at the warning, and maybe some good sense will dawn upon that smoker. But still the number went on increasing. In US, one TV commercial, over there, it's compulsory that if you are advertising for your cigarette, you have to show the statutory warning in that whatever, say 10-second or 30-second commercial, the statutory warning has to come in bold letters on the screen. So you'll find, especially these cigarette advertisements with beautiful looking people, handsome, giggling at each other, made for each other. We are made for each other and live life king size and all these things. So in this particular commercial, a handsome looking cowboy comes on the screen and he takes his first puff and just robs everyone's attention. The flair which he has, the way he smokes, takes his first puff. And now according to the condition, they have to show the warning in that commercial. So they show the warning, statutory warning, cigarette smoking is injurious to health, but just for a few seconds. And then it is taken out. This cowboy comes again and he smokes again, takes his second puff and he says, who cares? So what was the last message? That yes, we fulfilled your condition of showing the warning, but ultimately who cares? As long as it's giving me enjoyment, it's giving me that kick. Therefore you see there's these slogans, just do it. I saw in that t-shirt someone was wearing, just do it. And just a week ago I saw another t-shirt somebody was wearing, just did it. So these are the, kind of desires which are there in the mind, now manifesting in these forms. So many sticks every day, 26.02 crore. Go ahead. Soft drinks, 1.96 crore bottles every day. Condoms, 43.83 lakh every day. Go ahead. Bikes, 15,932. Scooters, 19,332. So these are some of the things. These are not, everything which we human beings want, or we human beings actually desire to have in terms of our contact of the senses with the sense objects. These statistics were of just few gadgets, few things which every day is being consumed. And this is just the manifestation of the surface of that ocean. How many fishes are there beneath? That statistics might go uncountable. Go ahead. So, again coming back to what is the effect, we see that over here there are three types of reactions in our mind when we encounter a certain situation. Now, whatever we'll be discussing now as far as these reactions are concerned, we'll be seeing how we have to react to our desire in a certain fashion. So firstly, I would like to put in front of you a kind of a given situation in which how a person reacts to that given situation, which might be unusual, but if we look deep into our own hearts, dealing with our own desires, we deal with our own desires in that unusual way. So a given situation might be like your friend has gone to the market just to buy something and he has put on the new Italian slippers which you gave him. Just imagine, Italian slippers are very famous. So imagine, you gave him a pair of new Italian slippers and he's putting on that, he's gone to the market and a big hefty guy walks, crosses by and just, stamps on his left toe with his big military boots. Now, his left toe is bleeding and this person who stamped on him looks at him and this person, your friend, tells him, I am sorry. Unusual? And then the hefty guy says, it's okay. And then after 2 minutes, your friend realizes, wait a minute, who was supposed to say sorry? So he finds himself in that predicament, so he goes to a psychiatrist. Maybe I have some problem here. So goes to the psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist reports everything to the psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist diagnoses and tells, you are suffering from inferiority complex syndrome. So that was the diagnosis. And now he comes out of his clinic, and as again he's walking through the same road, again this hefty guy comes, he stamps on his now right toe. And now, upon stamping on his right toe, again this person says, smilingly now, I am sorry. And feels good about that. Why? Because now I know why I am saying I am sorry. Because I have been diagnosed. The psychiatrist told me that I have this problem, so now I can be rest assured that when I say I am sorry, I know why I am saying sorry. So here in this particular situation, this is called, yeah, go ahead. This is called passive reaction to this particular incident. Now just your doctors know, diagnosis of something is not the cure. You may have diagnosed the disease of a patient, but simply diagnosing will not cure the patient. You have to do something about that. So in this particular incident, given situation, what we saw, that this person was thinking that, I'm good, I'm okay because now I know my problem, but he has not done anything about that. So similarly, just knowing our desires, just knowing what our desires are doing to us is not going to solve the problem. So many times what happens, we live a life in this particular reaction of passiveness, in which the desires are troubling us, the desires are just making us a kind of a wreck, a mental wreck. But we just feel satisfied that I know what my desires are. That's the passive reaction which we give to our desires. And the second is, go ahead, that there is this aggressive reaction. Imagine the same given situation. Your friend goes to the market, now he is stamped by this hefty guy with his military boots on his left toe. Now your friend becomes angry on this hefty guy and slaps him. And this hefty guy, he gives him 2 blows. And now if your friend is still surviving, he starts a fist fight with this person. And then, all that goes on, what anger leads into. So this is called the aggressive reaction. Sometimes when people, they deal with their desires, they just deal with them in a very aggressive way. That, this nonsense desire is troubling me so much, and because of which so many toxins are created because of that mental frustration. So this particular reaction is also not conducive with our desires. Of course, passive is not at all, but even aggressive is not very healthy. But then the third is, it's called assertive reaction. That the same given situation, your friend has been stamped by this hefty guy on his left toe. Now, he doesn't say I'm sorry. He doesn't become angry also, but just gives that person a very assertive look. An assertive look indicating, do you realize what you did? And now that hefty guy says, oh, I'm sorry. So this is called assertion, a kind of assertive reaction in which you are stern, you are a little strong, but you have not become victim of your anger or whatever reaction you are giving it to your desire. So that is called assertive reaction. Now what is the result of each of these reactions? First is passive, in which there is a lingering influence within our mind when passive reaction is given to our desires. That we are left helpless, resentful, disappointment is there, then we feel manipulated. There is a lingering influence within the mind when the desires are left just passive within us. But when we deal with them aggressively, then the lingering reaction is anger, frustration, then we feel that we are dominating on others and achieve our ends at the expense of others. So this is also not very healthy. But when we give an assertive reaction, then the lingering influence is that the self-esteem goes up, we build up confidence, and then we take charge of our own psyche, own psychology. So this is how we have to first of all detect, what am I doing with my desires? Am I remaining passive? Am I aggressive? Or should I be assertive when it comes to my own desires? So now we'll see that how this particular thing which you see on the screen, that many times we just live our life at other people's priorities. And if we try to list down the things and the situations which I am aspiring for, hardly there are very few which I am aspiring for myself, in the sense that which I actually need for my survival. Therefore it is said that we work hard to earn the money which we do not have, to buy things which we do not need, to please those people whom we anyways do not like or love. And practically a person who is living that kind of life of consumerism is doing or falling in that particular category. So now all these three reactions which we just over here saw, and plus this particular point, let us go into a kind of self-examination exercise. And over here in this we have a set of questions, and you, if you have pen and paper, you can answer these questions with yes or no, honestly, and you have to keep it with yourself. And if you don't have a pen and paper, you can just in your mind, you can just assess yourself that whether, how do I react to these situations. You can just assess yes or no, answering these questions which will be coming in front of you. Yes, go ahead. Now firstly, I would like to make this very clear that these questions which will be coming forth in front of you, again, this has to be dealt with our desires. That yes, there might be situations in which you are dealing with some people or some circumstance or something, but we have just taken questions, day-to-day interactions which we may have in our life, but you have to translate it to your desires. How do I deal with my desires? Yes or no? So firstly, do you buy things which you don't need just because you can't say no to the salesman? Sometimes we encounter some salesmen, they are so good at speaking and they present themselves, and you know in your mind that I don't need this thing, but you still land up buying it. So whether you fall in this category of yes or no, whether I do that, things which I do not need. And sometimes some people say, well, salesman I can deny, but when sales girl comes, then it's a difficult story, because she is more convincing than a salesman. So how many times we find ourselves in this particular situation of not being assertive, of being given into that particular emotion, of not feeling that what I'll present myself in front of the salesman will feel bad if I don't buy. So better I buy even if I don't need it. Next question. Do you hesitate to return defective items just purchased from the store? You have just bought, say, some mixer grinder, and you plug it, there is a thudding sound, fumes coming out, a defective piece. But then there is a kind of hesitation that how can I now go back to the same shop, because it was written on the bill, goods once sold cannot be returned back. So do I again have that assertive approach that I come out of that hesitation, go and give that to the shopkeeper, and maybe reveal to the shopkeeper that you are all, your particular item was defective. Yes or no in this particular case? Go ahead. Do you hesitate to shut up someone who talks aloud in a movie, play or a concert? Now, imagine a seminar like this is going on, or you are watching a movie, and in that theater, just few seats in front of you, there are like 4 or 5 people chit-chatting, say gossiping or speaking aloud something, and you really want to concentrate on that particular movie, and firstly you feel hesitant to shut them up. So generally, in that particular situation, what one does is, one gives some indication that they should stop. Doesn't directly say. So clears the throat, like that. And then, so it's not, the assertion is not here over here. The passiveness is taking over. So the person clears the throat, and then all of them, they look at you and you smile. So then what indication they get? We should continue. He likes maybe, our gossiping over here. So again, in this given situation, how do we react? Do I have that courage to shut them up when they do like that? So mind, all of these things we have to translate with our desires. Do I shut up my desires also? Do I have that courage, or do I feel hesitant when my desires also disturb me, like if I'm in a movie or something like that, when some people are disturbing me? How do I react to that situation? Go ahead. Can you open a conversation with some stranger? Now again, this will give an indication whether we have that inbuilt courage within us that we can open up a conversation. Like many times, you can open up a conversation with any ordinary person, but someone who is a little different. Like many times people, when they encounter us, it becomes very difficult for them to open up a conversation with people like us. I remember many times in trains, when we are traveling, people just keep looking at us as if, who are you? What are you? From which planet? Something like that. And sometimes they keep observing. I remember coming from Nasik some weeks ago, and a person was just observing me for 3 hours, 4-hour journey. For 3 hours, he was very minutely scanning me. And then as, the train was about to reach VT station, and finally he couldn't contain himself. So, and can I ask you who you are? And I was sensing that he had that question within, but he was not able to open up. So how many times we are put in that situation to open up a conversation with a stranger? How free we feel within us. Go ahead. Do people act with you as if you are boring and start ignoring you? Does that happen sometimes, that you can sense that, I'm appearing to be boring? Sometimes, when I give seminars, I feel like that. Many times, I guess, maybe I don't feel right now because you are more enthusiastic than me. Go ahead. Can you refuse your friend's unreasonable request? Again, if a person is not assertive, if the request is unreasonable, the person remains passive. Doesn't, go ahead and open up and say that maybe your request is unreasonable, you should correct it. Go ahead. Are you comfortable asking favors from your friends? Many times this also happens, that how can I ask some favor from my friend? Of course he's my friend, how can I ask? He'll feel so bad, he'll think that, I'm using him. But many times you may deepen your relationship, your friendship with your friend by asking some favor, because then what you're indicating is that I lack something and you are the one who can fill up that lack within me. So which means you are showing that how I am dependent on you. So that dependence seen, then that friendship sometimes deepens. Of course, this doesn't mean that one should exploit some friend, but sometimes asking favor might deepen the relationship. So again, if you see these questions, again we have to deal with our desires like that. Not that always you have to be saying no, 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 no. You have to deal with your desires just like you deal with people, with circumstances, situations, depending on using some little passiveness, using assertion most of the times. Go ahead. 8th question, can you criticize your friend in order to correct him? This is called corrective criticism. Many times we feel that if I say anything to him, I know that whatever this person is doing is all wrong, is all unhealthy for him. But if I tell, then I'll become the bad guy. And if I become the bad guy, I'll lose him. And if I lose him, all the wonderful influences which I have because of him, I'll lose that also. So how many times you just step out of that particular comfort zone of yours and you assertively say that this is something which is wrong in you and I would like you to correct yourself, even though the person might feel bad, but you know that it's healthy for that person. So how many times we go ahead and do that? Can you give a due praise to your friend? Now this is also many times very difficult because we are so used to just get praises for ourselves, and we are so attuned, the ears are so attuned that if something is spoken about me, then only my ears listen. This is called selective listening. Then only my ears listen to that. But to give some due praise to someone else, sometimes it takes a lot of humility. It takes a lot of openness and frankness to appreciate someone else's quality. Go ahead. When someone compliments you, do you know what to say? Sometimes, people, they are caught the wrong foot when you give some kind of a compliment to a person. Like, imagine a given situation, your friend, his wife begot a child, and now it's the hospital, the delivery ward, and the doctor comes out, and the doctor is giving the first information to the friend, and he's telling, congratulations, your wife begot a baby boy. And your friend totally becomes so confused how to react to this compliment. So he says, it's all because of your mercy, doctor. So this is called, a compliment which was inappropriate, which was confused compliment given, and a reaction to that compliment, sorry. The compliment was given in the right way, but the reaction to that compliment was something which was given in an inappropriate way. So how many times when we get a compliment, we are a little confused how to react to that? Go ahead. Is there someone whom you share your conditionings with? Now, this is something very important because we all have a dark side within us. We have bright sides also, we have dark sides also. Many times the darker side is so dark that sometimes we also, when we go in, we keep realizing that it's going so deeper, it's going so darker inside as we keep exploring the dark side within us. So when we reveal that to someone who is really very near and dear to us, then that revelation of our own conditionings will actually help us not to go into those conditionings, because somebody else also knows what my conditionings are. But if the conditionings are solely, private to you, then it's very difficult, practically impossible to come out of those conditionings, because you feel that nobody else knows. So if just I am with my conditionings, that's okay. I still have my good image in front of others.
But to tell to others that will help us to come out of those conditionings.
Just for the sake of the other person who knows about them. Go ahead. Would you rather bottle up your feelings or make a scene? Again, dealing with our desires, we took that particular reaction of aggressive reaction, and sometimes aggressive reactions towards our desires might also help. But we have to understand in this regard that we have to have both sides. We have to have the assertive and the aggressive when it comes to our desires at times. And we'll understand that in just a few more points over here. Do often people tend to exploit you? Do we feel that, I am often being exploited by other people? So this kind of feeling we should have with our desires also. We should sit and think, am I getting exploited because of my desires? So we should take a step back from our desires and look at our desires from a distance. Okay, these are my desires and I am over here. What are they doing to me? Are they exploiting me? Are they using me? Am I being manipulated by these desires? And then that's how you have to assertively react to that particular situation. Can you be open and frank when expressing tender and angry feelings? So over here, the 12th point which we just took, that with our desires we have to deal with this combination sometimes. We have to be tender and at times we have to be a little angry also. Now, another given situation of, say, the son calls up the father that I'll be back 7 p.m. to evening at home. And then he comes home 12 midnight. So the father was waiting and there was no message given. So he was supposed to come 7 o'clock, he reached 12 midnight. Now the father immediately becomes so angry, hell breaks out and starts shouting at this son of his and hurls abuses for half an hour and then smiles and then says, okay, now let us sit and have dinner. So over here you see a combination of some tender feelings as well as feelings of rage. Over here what you see is that the father was angry on the issue of the son, not on the son per se. So there is something called issue-based anger and there is something called person-based anger. So you may have, that kind of feeling towards, as Jesus also said, hate the sin, not the sinner. So over there, what Jesus is telling is that you hate the issue of sin, not the person, because the person can at one point of time become pure or sinless. So similarly, when it comes to our desires, we have to understand that we are dealing with just some issues. So tender and angry feelings, it's like issue-based anger or person-based anger. That's how we have to deal with our desires. And at times, we have to be tender when there are good desires and maybe cultivate those desires, nourish those desires so that those desires help to replace the bad ones. Yeah. Are you comfortable making a mistake? Why it's mentioned over here, this particular question? Because we should have a sporting spirit. Many times when people, they are troubled by their desires, they go under depression so much that sometimes they commit suicide. That because I'm not able to control my desires and because of that I'm not able to control my physical actions, therefore, I am a guilty person and therefore I am not worthy of living. But you should understand that we should have a sporting spirit when it comes that, as it is said, to err is human, that we may commit a mistake. But then of course it is said, once you make a mistake, that's innocent. The second time you commit that same mistake, then you are guilty. And you commit that mistake many more times, then that person is a rascal. So we have to initially begin with that sporting spirit and understand how do I react to that particular given situation. So here are these 15 questions, and now we shall conclude with how to manage. Of course, in those 15 questions, you might have assessed yourself that where are you assertive, where are you aggressive, and which places you are just passive. And then you can translate all those situations to our desires. Now, in this particular section, how to manage, again we'll go back to what Krishna is explaining, the sense object, then the senses, and the desire. So over here you see, you can't take away all the sense objects from this world. You can't remove your senses also from your body. That, okay, if my eyes create a desire within me, then I'll pluck out my eyes. If my tongue is making so much desire within me that I just want to eat the whole day, then I'll just remove my tongue. No, we can't do that. So you have a sense object and you have your senses. But there is something which combines them, and that is the desire within. So there is a beautiful verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the first canto, which explains, Etadhi atura chittanam matra sparsha ichhaya muhu bhava sindhu plavo drishto hari charyanu varnanam. Over here it is explained, Narad Muni is speaking this verse to Vyasadeva, that the chitta becomes atura. The mind becomes very atura because there are sense objects, because we have senses, but more important than these two, there is ichha within. So we have to work upon the ichha. Many times what people artificially try to do is try to work upon the senses and the sense object. But if we just work upon the desire, then actually we can be very healthily living, even though surrounded by all the sense objects, even though having all the senses. Go ahead. So in this particular concluding point of ours, how to manage, this is a very interesting term with which we can begin with to manage our desires. It's called the butter sandwich syndrome. Another given situation that two people in their office, lunchtime, they open their lunch box. And one person, he looks at the lunch box and he says, "Oh my God, butter sandwich again." So the friend who is seated next is asking, "Oh, you don't like butter sandwich?" "I hate butter sandwich." So he says, "Then why don't you tell your wife not to pack butter sandwich?" So he tells, "No, I packed it." Unusual? He's saying, "I packed," and then when he opens the lunchbox saying, "Oh, butter sandwich again." So how many times we give into these desires, "Oh, my smoking, oh, my drinking, oh, my this, oh, my that." And then if it's asked, well, who at the first place, was that somebody was at gunpoint telling you, smoke this cigarette, drink this liquor? Somebody was doing that at gunpoint? No. It was I who desired and who actually gave the manifestation of that desire. So this is called, first of all, detection of who is responsible. Therefore the butter sandwich syndrome, it refers to detecting that who is at fault. It is I who began with, I packed it, and now I am only complaining. So we have to first deal with our own self. Then this is called the broken record technique. Now somebody might say, well, okay, I desired, now it's become a kind of a conditioning, it's a craving, you only define desire like that. So how to deal with it now? So this is called the broken record technique. Imagine the same situation, you bought your mixer grinder and it was found defective, thudding sound, fumes coming out. So now you take it back to the shop and you have decided that you will keep repeating like a broken record one statement: I want my money back. like a broken record, you have decided that you are going to just speak like that. So you keep the mixer in front of the shopkeeper and you tell, I want my money back. And the shopkeeper looks at the mixer, says, anything wrong in this? That I want my money back. And the shopkeeper says, it's written on the bill, goods once sold cannot be returned back. I want my money back. Because, first of all, who made that rule in that bill? The shopkeeper made the rule. So you know that he can easily overrule his own rule. So you are assertive, I want my money back. So now, after 3-4 times you have said that, then maybe the shopkeeper might say, okay, we will repair it at your cost. I want my money back. And now the shopkeeper slowly realizes that you are too assertive. So then the shopkeeper says, okay, I'll repair it at my cost. I want my money back. Now, by this time the shopkeeper is losing so many other customers. So the shopkeeper will then tell you, okay, I'll give you a new piece. If again you say, I want my money back, the shopkeeper, he will just give the money to you, get lost, because I'm losing so many customers because of you. So this is called a broken record technique, in which your desires will be like that shopkeeper, presenting justifications of how we are not defective. Or you can do something or the other, even though we might be defective. But if you, like this broken record technique says, I don't want you to see that. I don't want you to hear that. I don't want you to taste that. If like that broken record technique, if you just go on giving those indications and signals to those nasty desires, then at one point of time those desires, they will have to obey that particular record of yours. And of course, Krishna finally, in the Bhagavad Gita, he gives the remedy that we should have a broad oceanic view. In the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains, Apuryamana achala pratishtham. Krishna gives the example of a samudra, an ocean, such a huge body of water. And you may see a river. You may see a river which is raging, a river which looks very wild, making so much sound. So the rivers which are going into the ocean, which looks so active, they are compared to our desires. But if a person has broad oceanic view, like a self-led soul whose goal is so high that anything of this material world, what to speak of these material desires, cannot affect, just like these rivers, when they are entering into the ocean, these rivers, they appear to be small trickle of water as compared to the ocean. But when that ocean is not there, river appears to be substantial. But in front of the ocean, the river appears to be a small puddle, small trickle. So similarly, when our views are so broad, when our goals are really so oceanic, then anything of this material world will appear to be insignificant. So therefore, to conclude with, don't say yes when you need to say no. Ultimately, this is what we have to do. That when we need to say no, we should not say yes to these desires. And of course, whatever we discussed in terms of the reactions, we have to see if we can apply that, be very assertive with them, and in fact the best way is to purify them and replace them with something good, something spiritual, something very healthy for this human form of life. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Shiksastakam Prabhu. If there are any questions, we would like to take one or two questions. Okay, that's Dr.
Here. Which is the ideal way to control desire?
The ideal way to control the desire is to purify it. You can't just throw it off the window. Because we, as living entities, our constitution is, we are born with desires. So, having that constitution, when we come in contact with negativities of this world, like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains that the living entity, when in contact with the three modes, goodness, passion and ignorance, and depending on its contact with whichever modes or the combination of these three modes, a person gets a certain kind of desire. So desire, in order to control, we have to purify our physical activities. And that's what Krishna again explains in the Bhagavad Gita, that when our physical actions are pure, then those pure physical actions will help the desires to become pure within. And once the desires are pure within, then they are automatically controlled. So when desires are impure, and why desires are impure? Because our senses are interacting with impure sense objects. And you may have your senses, even though interacting with some maybe good pure sense object, but if the desires are impure because of some previous impurities, then again the usage of those desires will be impure. So therefore, to have knowledge of what my actions should be, and then those actions which make impressions in your mind. So those impressions, like you keep doing something and you get a certain impression of that particular action within your mind. Like say your mother tongue. You speak your mother tongue every day at home, and it is so much imprinted that even at night, if you are speaking to someone, maybe you will speak in the mother tongue of yours. Why? Because your physical act of speaking was so much that it got imprinted in your mind. So which means mind is like a photo film. You take a snap and there is a impression on the photo film. And then when you develop it, whatever you took the snap of, that thing will come out. So whatever physically we do, therefore, in spiritual life or cultured human form of life, the physical actions are so much stressed that, okay, don't do this, don't do that. So there are prescriptions and proscriptions, both are there. What we are not supposed to do and what we are supposed to do. And that's how the impressions in the mind will be either purified or impurified. That's how we can begin with to control. That's the beginning. You had a question? Yeah.
For any progress, we require desire. Without desire, we cannot do the progress. So
Yeah.
don't think if we don't have much desire, we cannot have more progress, because our science is totally depends on desire. If I want to go some study or investigation or some progress, desire must be there. If I don't have any desire, I cannot progress.
Yeah, so over here, what we understood was not we have to kill the desire, as I was speaking to this gentleman, that we have to purify the desire. Just like now over here in this room you see so many scientific gadgets which somebody had desired. Somebody had desired for some reason. So you may have a scientist who might have desired to create or invent something for a certain reason or purpose. But then what you find is that when it is placed in the wrong hands, like you might have heard the incident of the atomic bomb. Now Einstein, when he saw the devastation in Hiroshima, so he in fact cursed himself that why did I at the first place give this atomic theory? So he had good intentions to give that. But then when he saw that how it was misused, so therefore it is said we have guided missiles, but in the hands of misguided people. So desire has to be purified, and then with that purified desire, whatever you create or invent will be used in a purified way. So it's not that desire management means desire killing. You have to manage your desires in the sense, have your actions, have your mind, have your thoughts purified first. And then there can be real progress. That's real progress. So, in one sense we can say that yes, there was a report, again in the United Nations they came out with a report that from hundreds of centuries, like from the 2nd century till 1899, till that century, the number of people who died, and then just in this one century, from 1900 onwards, the number of people who have died, they are 3 times more than the number of people who died from 1st till 1899. Which means, in that sense, what is our progress? We have progressed in killing in such large numbers. Which means to say that yes, we may have all the technology which might be so astounding, but because it's not in the right hands, so that technology can be the same more dangerous. So over here, we are trying to work upon, not on technology, we are trying to work upon the character. So you may have a person who may be very competent, but if there is no character, then that person is very dangerous. You may have a pickpocketer who may be illiterate, and at the most he can pickpocket someone. But maybe if that same pickpocketer becomes very educated, very learned, but if his mentality is not changed, then he may use the same education, the same learning to rob a bank now. So along with competence there has to be character. And that character means purified desire. A person who is trustworthy. And then of course with that trust, with that purified life, a person whatever desires will be healthy for the entire human civilization. Is it okay? Any other questions? Yes. Of course, this is a seminar in itself, that what do I mean by purified desires? Now, of course, somebody from the moral point of view will say that purified desire means that you should not harm anyone. Live, let live, non-violence, then truthful, being generous, kind, noble, charitable. So all these, attributes are of a person who is leading a purified life. Now, of course, that also might be a little relative. So therefore, beginning with that kind of a purified life, that at least we don't go into those activities which will harm the other person. So I as an individual, if my life is becoming a threat, just like we took some examples of how people who go into wrong habits, like say smoking, drinking, and all these bad things, bad negativities within one's life. And if I am the person who might be in any way, shape or form responsible for someone else's being into that negative life, then I am, in one sense, is not leading a pure life. So therefore, if my thought process, of course in ultimate sense, to become really pure, you have to associate or get connected to the supremely pure, and that's God. He is that person who is supremely pure. So when you connect yourself directly or indirectly with that supreme person who is supremely pure, then you have begun your journey towards purified life. Now, over here, this entire hospital, it's a hospital, but because it has its connections with, the spiritual process. So therefore, it's not just a hospital which is treating the physical body. Yes, it's doing that. It's trying to purify the physical body of its diseases. But along with that, it understands that that is also relative. To just purify the body of the diseases is just relative unless the soul is purified. And for that, you have to come on the spiritual platform. So now purified life might be on a moral platform, which is good of course, but it's not the ultimate. And of course, the ultimate eventually is if we get connected with the supremely pure, that's God. And we have to progress like that in that direction.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Shiksastakam Prabhu. There's one more question.
There's one more question. Nartaki Mataji, yes.
Hare Krishna. Actually, I just wanted to make a comment. Srila Prabhupada said that how one can detect whether one has made truly spiritual advancement is how much we are willing to sacrifice for Krishna. So if we have desires which are not in line with Krishna, if we sacrifice them, that's true spiritual advancement.
Thank you.